even the likelihood of leaving that place as a main guy and getting a drive anywhere else after that is almost zero. Like, I don't think there's been a full-time driver leave Team 18 and continue.
That sounds so...
Mate, it's fucking brutal.
But it just sounds... So, I know you don't, it just sounds real fucking hard.
Mate, I'm like... I think back to some of the times there, and I'm like, I remember being in debriefs being like, this, guys, is like, we need to stop laughing. Like, there was times where things are being laughed about. It's like, fuck me, this is ruining everyone's career in this room.
Oh no! He's in defence! The man's in defence! They're all in defence! Oh, unbelievable!
Sound check.
Sound check. Ooh. It's a fizzer.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Got my cable caught up on my arm here. I'm still getting used to these headphones.
Cheers to our Patreon members that are watching us live.
Yes, exactly. Mate, it's new this episode. The first time ever we have done a podcast live. We've done plenty of live streams before, but we do have a bunch of fantastic supporters of Apex Hunters United watching us right now, live on Patreon. So if you would like to join them in the future, we're going to do pre and post events for the Supercars live. And we will try and do some guest podcasts live as well so that we get some real interaction from the fans. They can throw in questions. We keep an eye on it. So if you would like to watch our pre and post Supercar podcast, jump on Patreon and sub on there if you would like. And even if nothing else, the support for us is massive, and you know, Patreon's a way for us to try and stay as independent as possible.
Yep, and engage further with the fans, try and get some events and stuff.
Exactly right, mate. Episode 28, this one, we are previewing the Bathurst 12-hour, as well as touching on some of the Supercar rules that have been announced recently. Some are new, some are just kind of reiterating the old rules.
Yep.
But of course, before we roll in, can you please, if you would like to, subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications on YouTube, and massive shout out to our partners as well. Trico, of course, always big supporters of our show. So if you can buy Trico wiper blades when you're looking for new ones, East Coast Car Rentals, already fantastic priced hire cars. But if you'd like even better deals, AHU15 for that 15% discount.
Correct. And Lancaster Motor Group, go buy yourself a car.
Exactly. So even if you're after newer used cars, they've also got you sorted as agents for Ironman 4x4 and ARB accessories.
Well, there you go.
When you're looking for anything like that, Lancaster Motor Group, hit those guys up.
Let's rip into it, mate.
Let's do it.
So Bathurst 12-hour. We haven't covered this off in the show before, but...
We didn't have a podcast last time this come up.
Awesome race, though. We've both been lucky enough to do it together, and then a couple of times after that as well. So
I've actually got the trophy here. Hang on.
Grab the trophy for those that are watching. It's pretty old now. This was 2012. 2012. It was actually the pre-season to Scott and I doing Super 2.
Pretty big.
And so at the time, it was random as Scott was staying at my house because he just moved back from Europe. And he goes, I'm thinking of doing the 12 hour. I said, I think I might have done a deal too, mate. And he goes, oh, really? What do you? I said, NASCAR. He goes, no shit, me too. And that's how we were living in the same house doing the deal on the phone in the other rooms, and it was for the same car.
Pure chance it was. And RD organised it for me because I had never driven a touring car before, and my first year at Bathurst was going to be in the main series and Super 2, so he wanted me to do some miles. And it was, mate, I was on lap record breaking pace from the first stint, wasn't it? First practice session, wasn't I?
Yeah, it was actually good. I was getting very eager, never driven around Bathurst, waiting in pits. Scott's pitting this lap so I can jump in the car. And then he gets to the elbow and smears a thing along the fence and bends the steering arm. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not doing laps then. So that was a funny little...
Yeah, I fucked the thing on the first run, and it meant you didn't get a run in the first practice session. So apologies for that. I plucked a corner out of it. I'd never had ABS before. So I got ABS lockout coming down.
I'll make excuses.
Coming down in the elbow. And... if anyone doesn't know what ABS lockout is, that pedal goes... I don't really know how to describe what it is. It's just the pedal goes hard and it stops braking pretty much.
Just goes rock hard and you just have this big oh shit moment.
Yeah. Anyway, shunted the car, but we ended up actually winning. And it was a hilarious weekend because it was Chris Pither. There's the three of us. It was one of the most enjoyable weekends I've ever done was that 12-hour. So we did it in what, Class E?
So we were
literally
Class E production car, which at the time was like the slowest class.
Keep making eye contact with the TV like they're in the
they're
TV.
watching, so I'm engaging with the audience.
Yeah, the camera's there.
Yeah, but I like to look at myself. I look all right tonight. So Class E, which is the slowest proddy car in the classes. At that time, it was A down to E. And we actually won proddy cars outright, and we were sixth outright out of the whole race. And there was GT cars back then. There was probably maybe 15, 12 GT cars in the race as well. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and we actually stood on the podium outright. And I remember in the press conference, the Ferrari guys and everything were looking at us, going, "Fuck, look, these guys drive all day." And we finished, sixth outright, and we're in a Holden Astra doing like 2-minute 30s.
We were lucky though because it rained for a lot of the race. We were running R-spec tyres where the outright cars were running slicks and wets. So they had to pit for wets all the time, and we just bombed around. So
it was still funny to stand next to factory guys on the podium. In a Holden Astra, something no one had ever heard of, and then I complained as well in the press conference that they held us up all day.
Well, they were. Get out of the way.
But it is, it's a great event, and it's a shame to see how the grid sizes have started to dwindle over the years, and I'm sure that post the flu pandemic that we had was, I'm sure that was a big cause of it, because the cost to get cars on the track right now is massive, and we sort of spitballed ideas. We don't really know how to see them reduce the cost significantly enough to change the issues we're seeing with the limited grid cars on the grid at the moment.
Yeah. So we'll run through what this weekend's going to look like for those that are going to watch it. Currently, there's 19 GT3 cars confirmed in the grid. So a little bit smaller than normal, but there'll be reasons around that we'll cover off. There's 23 cars in total in the field. So I think what the split is this year is you've got Invitational, which is things like Mark cars. If anyone knows what the Mark cars are, I think they run under Invitational. And then you've got some GT4s as well that are running in there, and then obviously the GT3 cars. Yep. So bit of a mix of cars, which is cool. I think you want those speed differences, which is what I think makes it a cool race. So
definitely. I just think 23 is not enough, especially at a track that size and for 12 hours.
This is why I think the 1000, not to segue, needs more wildcards.
Yeah, and I agree. Like after we did the amount of chats we had last year about it, and I think towards the end, particularly after I saw the effort that the charter wildcard put in, I think it's fair to say we need more cars on the grid, and I think more people like the charters doing what they did would be great for the sport.
Yeah.
And you actually mentioned before we came on the pod, we were talking about the 6 hour and the 12 hour, and the 6 hour had 58 cars on the grid. And so it starts to raise a question whether a 12 hour is really is it not sustainable here in the country?
Yeah, and I think it's not just the 12 hour. I think GT in the last couple of years in Australia has the grid sizes have died down.
Yep.
So I raced in 2016 in GT, and back then it was really healthy grids. They were a support though at the time for Supercars, which I think made a difference. So you had all the good events with Supercars. And we would have 25 to 30 at every round. And a lot of factory support, a lot of factory Euros would come over and race as well. So since then, it's gone through some changes of ownership.
Yeah.
And with any change, things fluctuate, and I think just the grid sizes have changed. But obviously, the costs of GT3 cars have gone up dramatically.
Yeah.
Not just the running cost, but also purchasing the cars too. Back when I was running, you'd probably get a car for 500,000-600,000 Aussie. Now, I think the Ferrari's well over $1 million.
Yeah, right, okay.
So, and with that, obviously, everything else goes up with it. The running costs, servicing, everything. So, I think for us being a small little island, we just don't have that much money around.
And I guess Supercars really does suck out any sponsorship that is around, I guess. And so it's our biggest national championship for motorsport. And if you have money to spend on motorsport, you're probably going to spend it there. So I think in the past we relied a lot on the manufacturers funding the teams to bring, like I read somewhere today that Bentley used to fully foot the bill to get the cars out here and run this weekend and, bring factory guys out, whereas we're just not seeing that anymore. And I know that, Ford doesn't have a presence here, which is a shame. Neither does Corvette. And again, it's just they don't have cars in the country, and the cost of getting them here is so great. So there's a couple of things. Is it too close to Daytona 24 as well? Is that one issue? We're trying to get cars over here. And then I heard that, they would often sell cars after this weekend, which they're not doing because we just don't have the market for GT cars here now. So to come out here and race a car and then leave it here and sell it isn't realistic anymore. So I think there's a number of factors now that are really contributing to poor grid sizes.
Yeah, and I think GT racing was born off Pro-Am style racing. So generally an Am would buy a car, which would be a successful businessman, and then he would get a pro to go and race with him to get him further up the grid, where I think now there's not as many AMs that have obviously the funds to be able to drop $1 million a year racing or don't want to, which is probably fair enough.
I almost think as well, some of the AMs here are actually getting opportunities to race internationally.
Well, yeah, they are.
That's something that's...
Yeah, it's a small group of people that can afford to do it here, and they've been doing it for a while. And I think they've done the 12-hour over the years, and now they're going, let's just tick off some bucket list. Let's go to Spa.
Yep.
Let's go do some races in other parts of the world, Le Mans and things like that. So maybe it could just be something like that. But
yeah, like I look at people like Talbot and even Shaheen. They've done a lot of racing here, and are getting to be a really competitive bronze, or I mean, I'm not sure if they're silver. I think they might be bronze.
They'll be bronze, yeah.
So I mean, they're worth their weight in gold, I guess, internationally when you're looking for a competitive bronze rather. So, you know, I think if you're getting opportunities to race internationally, maybe the priorities change a little bit away from doing the 12-hour, like you said, if you've done it so many times. But I do know that, you know, I heard Arise was asking 180 grand from from an AM to come and race the weekend. So you're looking at them trying to get an AM to foot 50% of the bill. And then I know that, I mean, there was one with a recent one that popped up now, where it's 100 grand for an AM, which is still pretty good compared to the 180, but it's massive money you're trying to find for one weekend. Jesus. You know, we've talked about support categories being 80,000 a weekend, and I mean, I've been offered some deals in Porsche around the 50, and I can tell you now, I'd much rather find the 50 grand to go and do a Porsche event, or even if it's close to 70 on the deal that I've been offered at, say, the Melbourne Grand Prix, because the coverage you're going to get out of it is massive, and I think that now it's getting to the point where the 12 hours almost outpriced itself. Like, you just can't, there's not enough sponsors left on the shelf anymore here in Australia, and there's not enough AMs, I think, that are prepared to go and foot 50% of the bill to drive for one weekend.
Yeah, it's a high risk event too, because you generally will share the car with two other, maybe three other, so you can run 4 or 3 in the car. And if you're an AM turning up and you're paying all this money, it is a high risk, because things can happen at Bathurst. The car can get crushed before you even get in it.
Yeah, and some teams will have because I asked this question to someone from a team yesterday, they will often have like maybe a clause that says, like, if you don't get in, you get a percentage back.
You're not going to get it all back, though.
You don't get it all back. So you might put in as an AM 150 grand, and then you only get 50
back and not turn a lap.
and that's also the thing. Like, you look at Liam Talbot, they've entered as a pro, so there's no limit on minimum. There's a maximum drive time that a bronze driver or a silver can drive for now,
right?
But there's no minimum. So I think they can I think actually there might be a minimum. Might be, was it 60 minutes? I think it is maybe.
Yeah, there's generally a minimum.
Yeah, and the maximum now, actually I did put it in there with the rules, but the
maximum is now 120 minutes versus 80, wasn't it?
Yes. So the maximum now is 120 minutes, right? Yeah. And that's the same for silver and bronze. Yeah. But with the minimum being less for them, they're paying 50% of the bill, but they're only going to do a small amount of the stint of the race because that gives them the best opportunity to win. So entering as a pro means that they've got a massive advantage, which is how Kenny Habul won the race. And Speed Cafe, actually, I read their article on this, and they acknowledged that like that was one of the things that allowed him to win. Yeah. So a dark horse for this race is probably that Brock Feeney car with Talbot, where Talbot's going to be footing a lot of the bill, but doing very minimal laps, and he could end up winning the race.
And to be honest, Talbot's done that much GT racing now. He's not far off the pros anyway. As in, when I say pros, like the factory guys, he might be.
I think he's done a 202 at Bathurst.
Yeah, he might be half a second off. So he's just as fast, you know, within a B's of being there. So yeah, but they've got the flexibility of getting him out if they need to, if he's not having a great day, or keeping him in.
Yep. And
actually doing a good job. But I've been in that situation where I've done the race and the owner of the car's done the bare minimum, and he's rolled around under safety car. We've got him out, then we went and won it in class as well. So
yeah, okay.
It's kind of nice to have that up your sleeve if you need to. If you've got a couple of fast guys and you can handball someone out and just keep circulating around. But it is it's a really fun race. I've been lucky enough to do it 3 times. So I've done it in the Astra with you. I've done it in
which I'm sure was your highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done it in a GT4 KTM. Which we also won as well, which was awesome. And then
they're also racing this year as well. I saw they're on the entry list.
Yeah, so Trent Harrison, Glenn Wood, and those boys, and David Crampton, they're running the KTM again, which is awesome. And then I've done it in an outright car with Audi as well. So yeah, I've been in the really slow car and the outright cars, and it's just such a fun race. And I actually reckon in the KGM it was harder because they're that was a different model to what they're running now. It was so slow. It was GT4 spec. It was so slow in a straight line.
Right.
That like the GT cars would catch you so quickly. You're trying to do your race and you're looking in the mirror, and like it was hard work, but it was heaps of fun.
Yeah.
So it is a cool race, and I think it's going to miss a little bit of that this year on the telecast and in the races, just having so few cars. The cool thing about that race is you would pass, whether you were fast or slow, you would pass 2-3 cars every lap. So as a punter watching on TV or watching on the hill, you would always see something happening. Where now with 22 and predominantly most of them are GT3 cars, which means they're similar speed.
Yeah, well, 19 of the 23 are the same car.
It could be like what we saw at the 1000 last year, as in not a lot happening.
That is disappointing. And just to go back a bit, because I'd had a blank, but it was so. I wrote this down. So for several years, the minimum drive time has not been imposed on bronze drivers that form a part of a pro entry. So this is why, because I was a bit confused why Brock Feeney's entry with MPC was entered as a pro car. And that's because if they're entered as a pro, the minimum drive time is not enforced on Liam Talbot.
Right.
So he could just do minimum. But what's new for this year is they've actually brought that rule in and extended it to the silver class. So if you're bronze or silver, there's no minimum drive time.
Okay.
Which is good because, it is good if you're a bronze or silver, but it's also hard as a pro then to justify getting someone like myself, or I know Jimmy Golding was on the cards, I think, for a drive there. But it becomes hard to choose them over an AM when they bring money and there's no minimum drive time. So you'd easily sub one of your golds out for a silver, which it's getting harder and harder, I think, as a gold to end up getting a drive when there's still a few factory guys floating around as well.
Yeah, and silver is a tricky spot to be in too, and gold for that, because there's a lot of silvers that are as quick as golds. There's a lot of golds that are as quick as
I think even Jaden Ojeda might be a silver.
Yeah, so...
Which is why, they get factory gigs with Merck as a silver, so...
Yeah. Supercars was gold, and then I know there was a time where it might be different now where co-drivers, really experienced supercar co-drivers, were getting pegged back down to silver and stuff. And
that might be mean. Maybe I should try and say
I've been hanging to try and go bronze so I could then try and get some stuff elsewhere, but it just won't happen, unfortunately.
Well, I actually had a drive in a Ferrari for Maranello back in the day, and I was silver, and Audi said that they would pull out if they didn't change our license to gold, which is when they first made supercar drivers gold, because there's a few of us, including Chaz Mostert, who had only been in the main game for 12 months or maybe 2 years, and we were all ranked silver.
Yeah.
And they did the re-ranking system, and it screwed a lot of us at the start to get drives. Hunters, just a moment for one of our partners. If you're in the market to get behind the wheel of a new car, upgrade the caravan, or maybe hit the water in a new boat, even expand your business with a commercial loan, think Stratton Finance. At Stratton Finance, their team of Australian-based brokers are here to help. With over 25 years of experience and a trusted panel of more than 40 lenders, Stratton Finance experts make it simple to find finance options that suit you. Now, for full terms and conditions, visit lp.strattonfinance.com.au/AHU. Back to the pod. At the crux of it, it's a shame because it is such a good event. The way we talk about it personally, even though it was in the whole NASCAR, it's one of the most enjoyable races I've done, especially if you can do it with mates as well. And I didn't know Pither before, but we had such a good time.
It was a riot. But just on that, mate, I think that's what causes a little bit of the dramas we see with the grid size is with the ranking system, that makes it very hard. And I know that's why GT have dropped off a little bit in Australia with their grid sizes, because when I did it, you could run 2 silvers together.
Yeah,
and then they changed that rule.
So now you can only have 1 silver.
Yeah. So you can't have 2 silvers again and things like that. So that makes it hard. And I think that's where you get some of these things where a couple of guys or a couple of mates want to race together, but they're at the same level. They don't want to be ranked as a pro.
Yep.
But there's a couple of... So sometimes that comes into play as well, where if they just ran their own ranking system, which would be hard to manage, but they've tried to keep, fair enough too, they're trying to keep it under all the one umbrella, which is under SRO, which run all GT racing around Europe and Asia and things like that. So it's under, so that means a balanced performance and everything like that is the same, which is good, but it does have its challenges when it comes to using the FIA driver ranking because...
Yeah, right.
Like for the Australian series, if they open that up, they probably would have 30 cars on the grid.
Yeah, and that would be a much more exciting race to be watching then. Yep. It is a shame. One thing as well I've noticed is they're just not promoting the event. Like I did some research in the lead up to this podcast and it made me realise like I hadn't seen anything around the Bathurst 12 hour except for really what Speed Cafe was putting out or what Supercars himself put out. I'm thinking in terms of like Facebook advertising or I'm not getting served anything. The amount of times I go on YouTube and I get a Supercar ad, which is great, but I haven't seen one ad promoting the Bathurst 12 hour. And when you're thinking as a driver to go and do it and you want to raise funds for it, it's cheaper to do a Supercar wildcard than it is to go and do the Bathurst 12 hour. So if they want to try and assist drivers and teams raising money to go and do this event, they really need to step up the way that Supercars, because it's their event, and they've proven they can do it because they're doing it with Supercars themselves. Yeah. But as a category, a race that they're in charge of, I think their marketing, they need to do a much better job, because even in the lead up, if you're not seeing the cars or anything like that, it's just worth nothing. And the 4 days they're on track for then would easily be missed. Yeah. And some of the coverage is good.
I think this year too is tricky too, because as you said, a lot of cars were umming and ahhing coming from Daytona, whether they were going to enter and things like that, and if they had a crash in wherever they're racing pre. So maybe that's why it was a bit. But yeah, you're right. I didn't see a lot, and and
you can still use past vision of some of the exciting moments and things that have happened.
Most of the way I knew it was this weekend was from drivers' socials.
Yeah.
So I know I'm jumping on the plane from Daytona straight to Bathurst. How cool is this? And I was like, oh, that's
cool. The worst ever. You're like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
I want to be doing that. But the broadcast is good. So if you are interested in watching the 12-hour this weekend, it is on Fox Sports, the 7 network, and streaming will be available on KO Sports or 7 Plus. We did our R&D this morning, so we can confirm that is where you can find it. It's not IndyCar on Fox globally.
I'm saying nothing, mate.
If you did watch our last podcast, we said to the Patreon members before we joined this that we apologise. We did say, we got a lot of comments about it in the last pod, that IndyCar would be on Fox Sports and not globally.
It is. It's in America.
It's Fox in America.
I'll jump the gun.
Which they have released another ad there with what's his name?
Yeah, Palo.
With Pato Award.
No, Alex Palau.
Oh, Alex Palau.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, and 3-time IndyCar champ. And the new ad they've done, which they did with Joseph Newgarden as well, is unbelievable. So if you haven't seen that, look what Fox Sports is doing with the IndyCar Championship. They're transforming that thing very quickly, and
just putting a little bit of NASCAR shine on it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do there. So, but yes, we do apologise. It's not on Fox in Australia. Just, but we can still stream it here. But anyway. Let's get back to the 12-hour. I want to talk about some of the costs, mate, just so give people some insight, because you've reached out to a few people within the sport that run teams as team owners, and got some costs there, just to give everyone a bit of perspective, because some of the comments online, as an event that we love, and we know that there's some people behind the scenes like Shane Rudzis, who's working his ass off for this event.
Does an amazing job. Yeah.
And everyone at Supercars is trying to make this event successful, but there's things that are working against them. And when I see the comment section, I think the best thing Supercars could do is add some insight into like why. It's like when we didn't do more than, we're doing 13 events. It's not great, but had someone from Supercars come on here and actually explain why, then I think we could, add a bit of insight and change the narrative a bit, because it is challenging.
Cost of the cost. And
it's wild. So yeah, mate, what have you found out in your research here?
So being that it is, I guess, a SRO category, everything's controlled, even down to the fuel, right? So the fuel that they use is an ELF 102 octane fuel. It's called Core 50, but it has a rubber stamp approval from FIA. And because it has to go through that process, it's $8.95 a litre this weekend. So I actually messaged Mark that owns Race Fuels, who's the fuel supplier all through Australia, does an amazing job, great business. And he sort of said, yeah, it's $8.95 for the teams this weekend per litre. So the average GT3 car is going to use 3.5 litres a lap. So it's essentially $31, I think I had there, a lap in just fuel alone.
Fucking hell. And 6 practice sessions, quali, and a race.
Yeah, and the race alone last year was 275 laps. They had a few safety cars and things. So it's been up around the 300 lap mark before. So what have I got there? It's like over 6 practice, qual, in the race. I think it's like close to 12K in fuel.
Yeah.
Just fuel alone. So, that's obviously a fair expense. And then the GT cars also run on a really good slick tyre, but it's a Pirelli. And they're $4,400 a set. And they have 12 sets available across the week, so 48 tyres. So that's $52K straight off the bat. So you're sort of looking at sort of 60 to 70 grand just to put rubber and fuel on the thing before you even get any crew there. You get any flights, any accommodation. You don't feed your crew. You don't turn a wheel in the race car. You don't put brakes on it. You don't do anything. So, a couple of the...
To give you a perspective, I'm pretty sure a supercar tyre is about $250 pop.
Yeah, well,
so like the cost is, what did you say, $4,400 per set?
It's $1,100 a tyre.
Fucking hell. I mean, I know it's a good tyre, but
yeah,
you can see why. I mean, and that also gives you perspective that supercars, particularly for testing, we don't have enough tyres because ours is so cheap when you compare it to the world of motorsport.
You would be heavily subsidised by Dunlop, I'd imagine, though.
Yeah, of course, but $250 tyre to $1,100 a tyre?
Oh, yeah, but that's a far better tyre. But, yeah.
Yeah.
So the costs are just extreme. And then reached out to a teammate today, and he said, mate, the costs just to run the car this is not including if you had to lease a car, you didn't own a car, or any of that stuff, it's $300K, right? Just to get your crew there, get the car there, put some tyres on it, fuel it up, run it for the weekend. That's not including any damage or any other consumables that you might go through. It's probably...
Well, then you've got insurance as well, because these cars as well, being a tub, like a one piece effectively, it doesn't actually take much to be a write-off either.
There was a point too where GT cars became uninsurable in Australia for a point,
right?
Which hurt them too. I think there is now another mob doing insurance again, but it was really tricky at one point. I know when I did it in the Audi, a lot of the car owners were self-insuring because the insurance was so hard to get. It was so expensive. And they were running the risk. They were going, you know what? I don't want to pay 50, 60K insurance. I'll run the risk that if we have something, it'll be smaller than that, which, I mean, a GT car front bar can be 15, 20 grand. So it doesn't take a lot to do a lot of damage to these cars. But, yeah, the costs are just, I think we spoke to a team late last year and they said it sort of cost them 400 plus to run a car.
I heard one team that's not on the grid now tried to do it for $350 last year, made a loss.
It's a lot of money. And then I looked and I said, well, how do they cut the costs out, right? But when you scale it back, there's not really much they can do to take the cost. Like, unfortunately, that's just what they cost. They're an expensive race car to run.
Yep.
And when you look at it over a weekend, they're going to do 2 test days before they get there. Plus all the miles they do, they're probably going to put 3,000, maybe more Ks on the engine, transmission, everything on the car as well. Yeah. So they then have to go after that round. If you've leased a car, the car owner's going to go, yeah, cool. You need to pay for, if it's half of its life or whatever it is, of the rebuild. So they're expensive cars. And I thought, well, can they use less tyres? Can they use less? How do they do it? You could use less tyres. It's going to take bugger all off the 400K bill.
50 grand off the bill.
You might be able to take 10K, 15K off the bill. It's not enough to warrant. It's not going to cause any change. So I don't know. I then started asking myself, well, shit, do they go to GT4? No, because they still run a Pirelli tyre. They still run an expensive tyre. They're still going to run the same or good fuel in the cars because they have to protect the motors.
Yeah.
And I go, well, shit, you look at the Bathurst 6 Hour as a case study, and yes, the race is half the distance, so it's cheaper to run, but they had 58 cars on the grid, and they're running production-based cars. So you can get your smaller teams, can build a car in the shed to the spec, run it, and you can have the guys having a swing. And the cars would be far cheaper to run over a course of a weekend. So I don't know if that's what it needs. I personally love seeing the GT cars at the 12 hour.
Yeah.
Those cars around there are so good to watch. They're so fast. And if you've ever been to the event and you're sort of staying near the track, you get woken up by the warm-up lap out to the grid.
Yeah.
And it's pitch black, and it's really, really cool. So,
and it is a place, if you are there watching, go to the top of the mountain and you will appreciate how fast these cars are, because in a straight line, they're not that impressive.
No.
But across the top, for them to do, I think, a 2-minute flat 0.8 is the lap record by Maro Engel. Yeah. And a lot of that's done in the corner. They are so fast across the top. It's such a good thing to watch.
Yeah, so down the straight, you'll only pull about 280, maybe 285 if you're running low drag in the GT3 car down Conrod, but across the top, your 5th gear. You're a gear up on a supercar. Like your 5th gear, and you're lifting a beast. Most time you're pinned. Like, it is. They are so fast across the top. And you're right. It's all brakes and it's all across the top. And like the chase, it's about 70 metre board where you're braking from 280. Like, because they got 10-stage ABS, right? You just smash the thing as hard as you can. 2 feet it almost. The thing just stops and away you go. So, they're awesome to watch. So hopefully, I don't know what they can do about it, but unfortunately, we wanted to be transparent. They're the costs.
Yeah.
What do you do about it? I don't know. I mean, they've got good people who said Shane Rudds is running the event. He does an amazing job. They've got good people running it, but unfortunately, GT3 cars are just bloody expensive.
Yeah, and I think with manufacturers at the moment pulling out, like that's, by the sounds of it, that was a massive factor in the size of the event, is actually how much the manufacturers were chipping in back in the day as opposed to what they're doing now. So maybe it wasn't that much cheaper when they were doing it, but the manufacturers were putting in that much more money. But it's also the timing of the event for me that's a big one. I don't know. I haven't looked across the calendars where it would line up better, but to come a week after the Daytona 24-hour is 1 week, isn't it?
Yeah, they were racing last week.
So 1 week. So it's not just the drivers trying to get here. But if you're going to bring cars over or anything like that, it would be great to see.
You need 2 cars.
Yeah.
Because customs takes...
We have to, yeah.
Yeah, they take forever to clear the cars. So those cars...
So then that boosts the cost up as well, though.
Yeah, because you're air freighting too.
100%. So I think that, but then I don't know how the calendar works. And one of the questions we got was about summer series, like whether, what we can do in Australia for more. But I think that putting an event now, just 2 weeks prior to the first Supercar event and 1 week after the Daytona 24-hour, I don't see how that's good timing in anyone's world.
Yeah, it makes it hard for...
Because even the Supercar team, though, they're promoting this event, which looks like the promotion of it has been non-existent. But I can imagine they're pretty busy promoting Supercars. So
it's hard.
And their team's not big.
Yeah, it's very hard to have a race. And even just from my own personal experience, if we've got round 1 pre-March, which we had last year, it's a nightmare because essentially you're stripping the car in November. You get no break. You've got to rebuild the car. You've got to have your sponsors lined up pre-December for your following season, which is very hard to do. Mm-hmm. Enough of your sponsors to commit to the next season anyway.
Which is probably why we've seen sponsors pull out last minute.
Yeah, it's just really hard. So they've had no time. And if you're a race team or a competitor trying to get sponsors, no one answers their phone over January anyway because all the decision makers are on holidays.
Well, really, from like December 15, good luck getting a decision out of anyone, especially when you're trying to get money out of them. I'm up for another one there, Barbs. You're the bartender, mate.
Copy.
Do your gig.
Copy. Yeah, you're dead right, mate. You need to have your sponsor signed up before November, in my opinion.
Done.
If you know you're going to be on the grid at the 12 hour at a race in January.
Sound check.
Or Feb.
And that's the other thing, right? So when you do these events, and we've tried to give some help to young guys as well that might listen to this, or girls that might listen to this podcast and they're looking at trying to find some money. When you do an event like this, merchandise and being able to leverage and promote what you're about to go and do is really important. So if you want to even have team shirts and things done where you can actually have a car launch and make it look professional, it needs to be done early. And this is where we see some of the Supercar teams do a shocking job of it because they're like this, trying to get a sponsor across the line to the last minute, and then they launch a render of a livery or something because even the Supercar teams can't get a sponsor confirmed early enough to have liveries and things done. So it's one of the big challenges. But when you do these events, like I had last-minute phone calls in the last week asking me if I can find a sponsor to help them fund a GT car for the weekend and come drive for them. And they're like, yeah, we could win. It's like, mate, how am I going to offer any value to any partner a week out from the event where it's like, yeah, bring your helmet and we're going to charge a sponsor? And that's where a team is just going into a sponsor and they're promising them the world and they're going to underdeliver. And that's the worst thing you can do. It's like if you know you're not going to get it, you're better off pulling out of the event, which some teams have actually gone and done because they've acknowledged, like, if we had another 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we might be able to do something. When you're a week or two out from the event, you're trying to find $200,000. In what world are you consciously going to go to someone and say, give me $200,000 and we can give you value for that? It's not possible.
No.
It's really, you're doing it because you want to drive a cool car for a weekend, which I mean, I would love to do. But my advice for anyone listening is if you're going to go and get money from a sponsor, make sure you can deliver on your promises and give them value for that money because it's not short change we're all asking for you.
No, it's crazy. But yeah, I think to your point about being so early in the year, I think that would have to have an effect on it because, as I say, I just know for myself, I shudder at the thought anytime we get a round 1 that's earlier than mid-March because I just know how hard that is. And obviously, we're not a professional team, but even for the professional teams, because their crew have to have holidays. They have to have Christmas with their family and stuff like that. So at the earliest, they're getting back Jan 6. And then if they've got to build cars and go look for sponsors and do all that stuff, those 6 weeks go pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I think the early in the year is tricky. I mean, obviously, there would be so many limited days that they could run an event at Bathurst because it's a public road anyway. I'm sure that's the reason why it is when it is. I don't know what the fix is, but I would love to see it get fixed because it is such a cool race. Love to see it back at 50 cars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so. I think looking at what the 6 hour does, it's, 58 cars on the grid for that race. And it's still a cool race. Still a good race to watch. So then getting on this year, we've had in the past, I mean, Chaz has been very fast here in the past in the GT cars. He's actually had pole at this race against some of the factory guys. Brock Feeney's another one who's been on the front row. I think twice he's qualified second.
Yep.
Last year's shootout, Vanderlinde, I think, ended up with pole, and then it was Feeney. I think Vanderlinde was wheeling. I think it was a Vanthoor.
No,
they were in the same car, but I think
it was Vanderlinde.
Yeah, and then so B Feen was actually on the front row, which is really cool. I think it's awesome to see some of our supercar guys, and taking into account it is a circuit when you have track knowledge, it's worth a lot. But still, these guys are in these cars every week, and some of them raced last weekend Daytona in the same or similar cars, and they race around the world. So I think for a supercar guy to rock up and do what they do is actually really impressive.
I think what Brock did last year was undervalued because, okay, knowing Bathurst is one thing, but let's be real, a lot of these factory guys have raced here for the last 10 years in this race.
And he outqualified factory drivers.
And I think there's, in that type of car, I would say there's so much more value in knowing the car because they run all the systems in them.
Yeah.
And knowing how to lean on those systems and where that aero platform lays and things like that, I think is so much more beneficial than knowing a track. And so for him to have bugger all GT3 experience, he's done a couple of races or whatever, really had bugger all GT3 experience and then go toe-to-toe and beat all the factory guys.
Yeah, he's seriously impressive.
I was half surprised he didn't get signed up and do a heap of shit through Europe this year when he could because if I was ahead of Merck or someone in the GT program, I'd be asking my factory guys, why did you just get towed by this kid that's raced a GT car 3-4 times?
100%. Yep. I mean, for me, that was probably the most impressive thing it probably just solidified what I thought of Brock's ability because, like you say, to go in and spank some of the factory guys in a car he hasn't done a lot of miles in. And you're right, understanding the driving aids and how to maximize them is actually really important. So, yeah, I think he's going to be one to watch. I think that this year with Talbot's minimum driving laps not being enforced, I think that, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Long day, 275 laps was the last race. And, of course, 12 hours, 5:40, I think starts in the morning. So if you're super keen, get up. I mean, I'd probably recommend getting up to watch the start and then go back to bed because the start of that race is unbelievable in the dark. Yeah. And it still will be very cool, even though 19 of the 23 had the same car. It's going to be
and the morning's
balls out race
fast because a lot of the cars now are turbocharged.
Yeah. So
that morning air, the things are just on another level for power. Like they're just, and the track's nice and cool. The tyres love it. It's always a really, really cool stint. But on that, I mean, it's a BOP race, and it's always interesting to see who's going to be the favourite car. You can generally get a pretty good sign of it. I mean, hopefully no one's sandbagging early in the weekend, but I find the Bathurst 12-hour race, if you've got the good straight line, you're generally in for a good day. Yeah. Because maybe not with 23, 22 cars on the grid, but normally you'd always cop traffic across the top, so you couldn't maximise your grip anyway. So if you had reasonable straight line speed, you're on for a good day, where if you were a bit slower, it made it harder. So it'd be interesting to see now which car. I mean, last year the Beamer was probably the car to be in. Yeah. In my opinion.
Do you have a car in mind that you think might be the one to challenge this year?
I think the Ferrari will be quick.
Have they not, though, since all of the the success they had in the GT Championship here in Australia? Are they going to be? Yeah. Is BAP going to be in favour of them? Do you think, or not?
Well, and they've been racing all over the world. So SRO obviously see what they do in Europe, what they do in Asia, and what they do
because they've done a lot at Bathurst, though. So
yeah, potentially. I still think the newest car is generally, whether it be from straight line speed or just adjustability, normally they've got a few extra tricks up their sleeve. From what I've heard, the Ferrari is fairly adjustable compared to some of the older spec cars. But in saying that, that's the idea of BOP. They might have, for example, if the Audis, let's just say the older gen at the moment, they may give that a little bit more of a fizz up the straight line to try and compensate. It might be the car to be in. So, yeah, we won't know until, I don't think, like practice.
Yeah.
Generally, practice one's a good sign because everyone sort of pushes and then goes, oh, shit, did we go too fast then? Should we slow down now? Yep. So they'll always try for a lap and then go, oh, fuck, that was too quick. Let's just roll it back a bit.
It's the one thing, like Shane said last week, he doesn't miss about the GT stuff. Watching people sandbag up and down the lane, and as a spectator, that's why I think GT racing is quite a hard sport to enjoy as a spectator because you don't really know what's going on. Even the pit stop times and things, it is a hard thing to follow. It's not...
It does your head in, mate. I remember the Audi, when I did the Audi at the Bathurst 12-hour, the year before the Audi was car to be in, we got there that year that I did it, and we were the slowest in the straight by like 8Ks.
Yeah, right.
The only Audi to make the top 10 shootout was actually our car with Nathan driving in qualifying. So all the factory cars missed out. That's how slow we were in a straight line.
Yep. And that's Nathan Antunes, if anyone's wondering who Nathan was. It was actually a Rebel Junior back in the day. It was my teammate in Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, so he was my teammate in GT and at the 12-hour, and he was the only Audi to go on the top 10, which was an amazing job for a privateer effort. But it just goes to show the year before they were the car to be in, and then everyone struggled the year we're in. And same with the McLaren. Would turn up at the Grand Prix and have no grunt, and then by Philippine they'd change it and you'd be a rocket ship. And then you go the next round and you'd be dog shit again. You're going, man, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, So it is frustrating sometimes with that whole BOP.
Explain, if there are people listening though, what BOP is and how it works.
BOP is balance of performance.
Yep.
So essentially, because you've got so many different makes and models of cars with different engine capacities, different sizes, all of that stuff, they need to try and make them similar or paritize them. And this is where it's funny. I think this is where people go, supercars parity shit. Well, it's actually not, because they've got two cars within half a tenth of a second, let's call it.
Yep.
At most racetracks in qualifying.
There's no motorsport in the world that has parity as good as a supercar.
Yeah, so they've got it absolutely dialed in. And then you look at GT racing where like you could be 6 to 8 tenths off another car purely on the car, and no one really, I mean, people piss and moan about BOP, but it doesn't really get shot down like supercars did with the parity. I think supercars nailed it compared to, say, BOP with GT racing, because literally you could go to one track one weekend and be on pole, and the next weekend you could be 15th.
Well, it'd be interesting if in a supercar championship they took all the badges off and no one ever knew which car was being released. Yeah. Because then you'd actually never know. Because I still stand by, I believe that T8 would have won the championship this year. I mean, the gap was so big that they would have won it in a Ford anyway. And that's almost, it's not fact, but it's like, fuck, they're that.
You're going to upset people now.
Was it Bathurst they won the championship for constructors, for like the teams championship. Yeah. So, you know, I think that there's a point where you got to acknowledge when someone's doing well, but it is like our championship here in Australia is actually, it's at a good level for parity, because honestly, I think if you took all the stickers off, you probably wouldn't know who's in what, because even over the last 10 or 15 years, I don't think Tickford has changed position in the championship. Walkinshaw probably hasn't.
Prime example, mate, is, as we said, a Ford had the most poles for the year in Waters.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I know then they're going to complain, though, about they didn't have the rear downforce, so the rear tyre dig was worse, or whatever it might be. But it is, it's an interesting conversation,
is still
because
king, right?
It is, because, I mean, as a motorsport fan, I think that the only thing that we're in trouble with is there's now not enough variables for a team to make a difference with, you know, or a driver in the car without the driving assist we used to have with anti-roll bars and things like that. I think that there's less factors now, and it's become an engineer's car in a way, because when you go out, that's what you've got. You know, you can't adjust it and find any speed out of the car. If the car's fast, it drives itself. I think I proved that last year where I had a fast car, and all of a sudden you remember how to do it, and you're like running around at the front.
Monkey could have driven that thing, mate.
Fat arming it. And but you know, I've looked back at even today when I was going through times for this Bathurst 12 hour, I was looking at on driver database. I went back to last year and looked at, the year before last now, and I looked at my times at Sandown. And I'm like a second a lap on average faster at Sandown in a T8 car than I was in a Team 18 car.
Sound check.
On you, mate. But yeah, I mean, you don't just work that out, right? No. So I think that, but then when you look across the manufacturers, I don't think there's much in it. That's where you just need to go. Well, I was in a Chev at Team 18. I was in a Chev at 888, and there's about a second in between them. Most of the times a second a lap in the race. So I think, we probably should give some credit to them, but I'd love to see some tools back in our cars. But comparing to, like GT racing as a fan, I've never been a fan of GT racing. Love the cars. Would love to do the 12 hour in an outright car. Yeah. But I struggle to watch the racing because you just don't know until, even on the weekend, like we're chatting to Shane all the way through Daytona, and he had no idea where he was going to be. Nah. They're like, well, we won't really know till the race. So, fuck, how do I, like, even in a supercar race, I think that we should have more tyres on a weekend, or at least it should be compulsory to, like, run a set of tyres before a certain point so you know where everyone stands as a fan, because then you can look at the leaderboard and go, okay.
That's why I just go straight into quali. Everyone's on green straight, I go, who's got it?
We will get to that, because our pre-brief for Sydney Motorsport Park, I've got some bangers that will upset some people.
That's not tonight, though.
Hey?
That's not tonight, is it?
No,
I'm not prepped for that, mate.
No, but I've already got some that have been winding me up in the off-season that I've seen. So
Great.
If you're going to stick around for the next podcast, it won't be the next one. We've got 3 guests lined up, actually, big ones. But yes, if this fucking roof, I've got a brand new roof on this building and it's banging away. I don't know what it is, the heat or...
Yeah, it's moving.
It's moving, settling in. But yeah, the supercar pre-brief coming up for Sydney Motorsport Park has got some good stuff in there.
Should we dive into the rule changes, mate? I mean...
Yeah, definitely.
There's probably not much more to talk about 12 other than we love the event. We're just sad to see that it's only got...
Well, I've picked my favourite, though. For anyone watching, my favourite for the weekend, my hot tip is actually Brock Feeney and Liam Talbot with... Who are they with, the other...
Rockefeller, is it?
I'm going to look it up because I don't want to get this wrong.
I'll get it wrong.
Yeah, fella.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my pick for the win. So, if anyone's watching, second and third, I don't know, because, again, I don't know what the cars are going to roll out like, but I'd love to see I'd actually love to see Mostert and Brown battling it out with Feeney at some point across the weekend. That would be very cool to see. But who knows what the Audi's going to be like. And it is cool. Actually, shout out to Troy at NPC to put a car on the grid and be the only representative for Audi. And I know personally, I'm sure he's putting a bit into that to make it happen. So
and they do an amazing job.
Good on him, yeah.
That's who I was lucky enough to do our Audi program, and they are one of the best teams. If they're like a Triple A.
Yeah, right.
Of customer racing, they are Triple A. They do an amazing job. I'll just give you my tip now that you've thrown that one out there.
So whoever you call out is going to be screwed. Don't bet on anyone Elliot ever says.
I'm really sorry, boys, but I'm going to go with Mazda, Brown, and Sarah.
Oh, you have.
Yeah. So the Ferrari, I think it's time.
Actually, I did want to shout out, how cool is it that Rossi is going to be back in the BMW? So if you are going to Bathurst, go down and get an autograph from him. I would love to meet Rossi. That would be unreal.
Yeah, it was the first year they rolled up, I had my car on display. And so I went out on the track when they did the photo shoot with all the BMW team, and he was there, and I was sort of standing near him. He just seems like a really cool dude.
He's one of the. I mean, I'm not a fan of many people in person. Like, it's like you see someone and they got crowds around them, and you think that's a bit odd. Like, it's just a normal dude.
Don't fangirl.
But I reckon I'd probably fangirl Valentino Rossi. I don't know. He just is one of those guys that has an aura around him.
Great guy to have a linguine with, I reckon.
Probably, I imagine so. Before we move on, Flynn Johnson has thrown a question in here from our Patreon members.
Copy.
Thoughts on Scotty Taylor Motorsport?
Yeah, well, they're obviously running Randall, Cam,
And Lowndes?
and Lounsey. Yeah. I mean,
a big credit to Scotty Taylor because we mentioned people that keep the sport alive, and he's someone as well that's passionate, loves it. Obviously, he's done well in business and he can afford to do this.
He fields that many cars. He's got a Super U, Carrera Cup car, and a GT car.
Unbelievable. So you've got to want to do it, and they put on a good program. So I think. I mean, I don't know the guy at all. I've never met him, but I think that
he's a ripper guy.
We need people like that, and he puts on a good program. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Cam and Randall and Lounsey go in that.
Yeah, they'll be good. I mean, you've obviously got three super experienced guys, know the track really well. They've all done a fair bit in GT now as well. They just did 2 days testing at Sydney Motorsport Park pre the event as well. Ash Seawood Motorsport's running that car for Scotty Taylor.
Yep.
So they've got a great team behind them. So, yeah, I mean, they can definitely – the thing is, some of the other teams will have factory engineers over there with them, and that makes a big difference in my opinion. Just knowing those secrets that they get out of the factories and stuff.
No, that's a good point. I was going to say, is there a lot you can do with the cars though?
There's little things. It's all the little 1%ers, right? Especially on cars like that.
But then T8 put, like with Brock, it was P2 against the factory guys ran by Triple A.
Well, that's what I was just going to say though. The good thing with GT racing is it's customer sport racing. So Mercedes will, as Ash Seawood Motorsport with Mercedes, they will have someone that will go across and try and share stuff with them.
Right.
But whether they get the same amount of information, I would be surprised if they're putting a factory effort in. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see him on the podium. Put it that way.
Mm. Yep. Well, good shout. As we can see there, after your shout out, commiserations, Mostert, Brown, and Sarah on whatever happens at the Bathurst 12
I reckon they'll get up. I reckon this year I'm on. I reckon my curse is gone.
You reckon your curse is gone?
I'm feeling good.
Anyone that's new to the show, every time Elliot Barber bet on anyone last year, they
thanks for using my full name.
Had a shocker. Well, they might be new to the show. I've been saying, every time I do the edit and put this out, I've been saying I should add titles to the start in case anyone logs in and goes, "What the fuck are these two guys just talking shit?"
What about handles?
But I did think about putting handles, but every time I do it, I forget.
Yeah, standard. That's because you're editing at 2 in the morning.
We actually have a lot of New Zealand listeners. So before we jump into the Supercar rule changes, which we're about to do, New Zealand audiences can watch live on Sky Sport New Zealand.
You love it?
Well, actually, I wanted to, if anyone wants to watch it.
No, it's a good shout.
We're not sponsored by any of these people, but I thought if anyone wants to watch the motorsport, because that comes up a lot, everyone's like, where can I watch it?
Yeah.
So I actually looked that up today, and we royally fucked it up last time by telling everyone IndyCar's on Fox in Australia.
Tune into Fox, 506, guys.
But yeah, if you're a New Zealand audience, you can watch it live on Sky Sports New Zealand. International audiences can watch it via the SRO GT World YouTube channel, which is probably what I might even end up watching it on, because I'm going to be on my phone most of the time.
And they do a good job of streaming that stuff, which is exactly what Roland said Supercar should do for other parts of the world.
Right.
Via YouTube or whatever, stream it so we can get more fans.
Yep.
GT Racing do a great job of that. Like I watched, Daytona's a great example. I watched that on my phone and just cast it to my TV at home.
Yep.
It was really cool because, yes, Supercar rule changes. Ready?
Start with this one straight away. Co-drivers can't start the race.
Very good for Will Brown.
Yeah, righto, mate. Righto. Look, I mean, personally, and the show is about being as unbiased as possible and about the fans and the experience, and even myself as a fan, what I think the sport should look like.
Yep.
But personally, I'm relieved because, I mean, I still get paid the same whether I start the race or not. And starting the race at Bathurst it's a high risk situation, especially say Will's leading the championship. So personally, it's like, okay, great. I don't have to start the race. That is one variable eliminated. Will can have that responsibility, you know. And it's so when I say that I think the team should be open slather, they decide. I genuinely mean that from a perspective of someone who likes the sport and just wants to see cool racing. Like I said, glad they kind of didn't do it. But I don't understand why a sporting body or a broadcaster would get involved in the strategy of a race. And they've said that...
Regulations of a race, yeah.
They've said that, particularly a broadcaster, I mean, I've heard that they're involved, and that is, I mean, you wouldn't go out and ask your accountant to set up a race car. It's like, fucking, they have no idea.
Right.
So it's like, you stick to what you know. You stay in your lane. But... Supercars have come out and said they want the stars to be in the cars at the start of the race when all of the eyeballs are on the sport. I posted and actually said, well, we'd hope that the new fans that see that will turn the TV off immediately because after that point, I think it's going to be boring. But the stars of the show are actually, and we see every time someone puts out an article on Jamie Whincup, Tander, Lowndes, those guys, they're still the stars of the show. At my gym, if someone says, like there's a few people that don't really know anything about supercars. And I'm like, I always use Lounsey as a reference. Oh, yeah, I rate, what Craig Lounsey, heard of him? Of course they have. There's no one in the current category that I can say, oh, yeah, this guy races. And they're like, oh, yeah, I've heard that before. So using that as your excuse it makes no fucking sense to me at all why you'd say that. We had one incident where Scafey slammed Zane Goddard for the mistake. And ever since then, it seems like it's too high risk to start co-drivers.
And the thing is, last year we would have killed for that mistake just to spice up the race.
Mate, we needed something. But as well, fans that come to the fence to watch want to see exciting racing. It's like you go to the sprint cars and you're waiting for a rollover or something as a punter because it's chaos and exciting. And I think if, a lot of Drive to Survive fans have probably gone to a Formula One race and gone, the fuck is this?
This is shit.
Yeah, I want to see the Drive to Survive stuff. I thought they raced close. I thought there was crashes. So I don't know. I think the show should be exciting. I think that there should be the variable there. I don't understand why you take a variable away regardless of it being good or bad. It's a variable.
Yeah, I just think it's very simple. It should just be the team should have the option. I mean, I said to you pre-show, mate, perfect example was you at Walkinshaw when it rained and you said, you know what, let's take a swing and put Luffy in the car.
Well, no, we qualified 20th is what it was.
Yeah, that's right. And then you decided to put Luffy in the car for the first stint and it just worked for you.
He come out of the stint in 7th or something.
Yeah.
Passed a bunch of main guys and we got to see.
But without that, I mean, not to say you wouldn't have done this, but without that you might not have had that second place.
100%.
That was an opportunity for the team to go, hey, let's have a swing at this.
Yep.
Bolt the Cowie in and do something different. So Scott's against the AMs in the shit weather.
Exactly
not the AMs, the co-drivers in the shit weather and make some hay while the sun's shining. And you got that opportunity to do that and it got you a podium. And I think just give the teams the opportunity to control the destiny of their race and just let the fans enjoy it.
Exactly right, yeah. No, I do worry, though, that, Charlie one year even said to me, it's such a short-sighted goal, right? And Charlie at Team 18 once said we did all this prep in the lead up to the event. Like we prepped for Bathurst, the strategy, you spend hours in meetings working out what the optimal strategy is. And then 5 minutes before the race, Charlie walked in the room and told us all that he told the team manager, which then relayed the message to us that we're going to start main drivers because we want some TV time. It's like a 1,000-kilometre race, 6 hours minimum. Like, if your priority is the start of the race, and this goes for starting codes and everything, if your priority is just the first 5 laps of the race, then it's not a good long-term goal. We need to make sure the rest of the race is exciting. And on that day, for instance, we're like, well, hang on, if we're already counting ourselves out that our first stint we're not going to be in it, we probably shouldn't bother. But let's have fast cars and move forward at the end of the race and get TV time at the end. But I just think that, starting codes is a variable. It also means some will start mains, some will start codes, and then straight away you're on alternate strategies up and down the pit lane.
Yeah. I also think it adds, for someone in your position now, I think it adds value to you because the guys that are sharper and have just recently left the full-time championship are probably a safer bet at a start than maybe someone that hasn't been in a full-time championship for 5, 6, 7 years. So, I think if I was in your position, I would try and make it as hard as I could for Coes because that's going to add value to you. But yeah, I think teams should be able to pick. I think should be variables. If you want to run your co, run your co. If you want to run your main, run your main.
Yep.
Make it different. It was always cool, I thought, on the pre-grid, both drivers being in suits, trying to like fox each other on who was actually going to start. I kind of like those mind games are gone now.
Well, you would always do it, yeah. Like say you're starting beside someone, you'd both go out on the grid, like someone you want to try and outfox, like you say, you both walk out on the grid, and then you make it look like you haven't decided who's starting main or co because the other guy is waiting for the exact same decision to be made because he's thinking if you start co, I'm going to start.
Yeah.
If you start main, then you start co.
Yeah.
You want to do what the guy next to you is not doing ideally, or you'd have team managers walking up and down the grid.
He's got his helmet.
Fuck, there's 8 co-drivers starting in front of you and we're 12th. I reckon we should start main and you might get through to 5th or 3rd at the end of the stint. So there's a lot that goes on.
Which is now dead.
That fans wouldn't see, but that's the stuff. Yeah, it's gone.
But I reckon fans do, like, let's say, I've only been...
But I mean, you might not know they're walking up and down the lane. That's how late the call mate.
But I just love seeing... I love the mental games that you see in motorsport especially. And I always used to get a bit of a laugh out of just seeing... I knew that whether you were starting or not because I've been talking in your bus before the race, but then you'd be out there in your suit, with your helmet and stuff, just playing those games.
Yeah.
And I just, that's the theatre of that is gone when you do this. So, whether it's a big thing for those that watch at home on TV, maybe they didn't get to see as much of that stuff, but for the fans that are at the track, if you're sitting on that grass hill at Bathurst at the start line and you see you and Will walk out in your suit and you don't know, you'd be like, fuck, who do you reckon's going? It's a talking point.
Yeah.
It adds a bit of excitement, a bit of unknown, where now that's now not there. So that's another thing that I think is missing because that was actually now that I think about it, that was actually really cool, always going, fuck, has he got his helmet and try and relay it to someone? Or
Even an early safety car, the variable, the chances of that is much lower with mains doing it.
Yeah, of course.
And it would be, so you want to see maybe an early safety car. But another thing is, anyway, moving on, is the fuel change and also the minimum driver laps.
Yeah. I like the fuel change to try and force them into a third stint.
Yeah. Well, I think now with the minimum, it has to be. So it's 60 laps instead now, which will push you into going into your third. So it's gone from 54 to 60.
Yeah, and that with the fuel also, they both sort of force that situation.
So I think that's good.
I think, because reality is if you start your third stint, the only way you're going to come in short of that is if there's a safety car or something. Otherwise, you're going to finish that third stint, you would imagine. So, extra lap for the Coes. I touched on it with the Patreon members earlier pre-show that I think it should almost be 50-50.
Yep.
Not a 50-50 split, but it should be. The Coes shouldn't just be doing the bare minimum, buggering off, going in the truck and sitting in their seat waiting for the podium. It should be, as much effort as the mains do and be as big a part of the result as the main. So,
well, it is an endurance event with 2 professional drivers, effectively. And I think that, like you say, whether it's, I think 50-50 or at least pushing, you can't complete, I think you said earlier before we came on the pod you said to me, like, what about if the co can't get in for his final stint until he's into
lap 100? I reckon that would be an easier way of doing it because you guarantee at, for example, lap 120, all the Coes are out, and then you've got 41 laps of all the mains, green tyres on, just going, like they're obviously going to have to fuel again, but going hard.
It would be interesting. But and I agree, I think it's a good idea, but the 50-50 thing I think is good as well. Like even if, I think that splitting it down the middle, it just, as an endurance event with 2 pros, I don't really understand why it's only like 36% or whatever it is, 37%. I don't understand. I'm not really sure why that is the case. I think maybe back in the day, there might have been a bigger offset between main and co, but even so, it's still an endurance race with co-drivers.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why it is so minimal.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I do think it's 2 races a year.
Yeah.
Make it closer to 50-50.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think, because everyone wants to buy a ticket to the last stint, right? Or lap 100 is what they say. So I think if you forced your Coe to have to get in from lap 100 and do a stint or whatever, I think you would see more action.
And the race is so long. really at lap 100 or even 89, I think, or something. The mains are usually all in.
Yeah.
So you don't even, it's not even the same race.
No.
You've got like lap 90, say, to lap 161 of just mains anyway. So there's literally like, it's a separate race. It's that long that even if your co-driver has royally fucked it, you know, you can, and that's why, like, as a driver, every time you go there, particularly as a main driver, you always remind yourself it's not over till it's over because it's such a long day. And you can get to lap 90 and it's still nearly the longest race. It's like the longest race of the year still. I think Brock did like 400K straight last year. Like it's ridiculous. So yeah, I think that it really is a main driver race still. The co-drivers, we don't contribute much, particularly to a place like Bathurst. Really all you're doing is staying out of trouble. Yes, you need to be fast, but I think that we should contribute more just because, not for anyone's ego, but, and of course, because I say that because people are going to be like, well, you want to do more laps. But I just think as an endurance event, it's wild to think that the longest race of the year for a main guy is still an endurance event.
I also think
when it's meant to be shared.
That, what I said with getting 100, if the second last stint of the race had to be a Coe too, so the last stint when they pulled in and the main chucked tyres on, juiced it, like it would be a shootout to the end. Like you imagine if you're like, right, you got 20 laps, dude, you got a whole ass here, green tyres go.
Yeah.
And the mains are in. Like, again, it's action.
Yeah.
Like it would create a storyline. It would create action. Oh, you know, Chaz has to pass 4 cars here or something, or vice versa. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, I think it's good what they're doing because it is forcing more co-driver driving, which I think is the goal. It's getting closer to 50-50.
And you look back at when Chaz won it with Morris. I mean, Morris, I think, when he got out, it was like a lap down, last place. And Chaz, the race is so long, he come back through and a bunch of things happened throughout the day with circumstances.
Track breaking up and stuff.
Exactly. And he got back in the race because it is literally, it's the longest race. Like if you qualify 24th in a supercar race, but you know, you've got a 500 kilometre or 400 kilometre race ahead of you, you can still be in contention with the right car and think going your way.
Well, 20 laps at Bathurst is a long way, right?
100%.
Let alone if you've got 60, 70 laps to go, there can be that many, so many things can go your way, go for you or against you.
Yeah, it's nuts. So that's why I think, you got to push the co-driver laps later or increase them because really that race that day, I mean, I haven't won one. I'm not taking anything away from Paul, but to get in a car as a lead driver there and go from a lap down to winning the race, it's like that was, and that's why I said I think I would struggle this year or last year if you win Bathurst to feel like you really contributed. Even the championship, at the end of the year, I didn't feel like all I did was just for 30 minutes of the 6-hour race kept it out of trouble, and then Will won the championship that year. So it's kind of like you need if a driver feels like that, then a fan definitely is like not paying much attention. You know what I mean? And the other thing that's changed for this year is the driver weights. So to give everyone an update, they've changed it to a combined driver weight now across both drivers. So it used to be the main driver was the weight was based off.
Yep.
So, for instance, last year, Brodie was 113.5 kilo, Hazelwood was 87.5 kilo, which meant that when Todd was in the car, he was 26 kilos lighter than myself. The data that I've got here is obviously based off me being 0. So Todd's advantage was 26 kilo to me, Murray 21 kilo, Everingham 20 kilo, Ojeda 16.5 kilo advantage. So it's like it's pretty big. But what's happened now by combining them is it puts the biggest change is it actually exposes some of the main drivers. So, for instance, Brodie, if he didn't lose any weight this year, based off last year's number, would have a 13 kilo disadvantage to Will.
Right.
And for me, it actually brings it a little bit closer. So it would help me out a little bit. So I would only be 13 kilos lighter than Todd. So last year, 26 kilos heavier I was, and this year I'd only be 13 kilos heavier. But I'm sure that now with that happening, I'm sure Brodie will, do everything he possibly can to mitigate some of that risk or, the disadvantage.
Well, the teams will hopefully put more emphasis on, like, that's now the rules. So, it'll be up. They've got plenty of time now. It's not till, when's the ban? September?
Yes.
September.
Yep.
Because we're there with Trans Am.
Yep.
So, it's they've got plenty of time.
I think it's good that they've done it, and this is where as well, like, if you want to do the combined driver weight, you probably need to increase the co-driver laps as well, because otherwise you're going to expose a main guy for longer
Yes.
at a disadvantage than really what he should be. Like, say, Brodie, if he got in at minimum laps for the he's running from lap 90 odd home or 80 odd home with a 13 kilo disadvantage last year. And then again, like for me last year, for the 50 odd laps or 60 odd laps you do, I was at a 26 kilo disadvantage. So it's brought it back closer. But I think to make it even better, you probably need to increase the co-driver laps so that across the field for the duration of the race, it's a little bit more even.
Yeah. And the other thing that's good about them doing that too is it just stops all the background chatter anyway. Stops people talking about it.
Yeah, well, and people have said, could you not throw ballast in? No, it's pretty much impossible. And also, I've shunted these cars. I've had three crashes over 50G. I definitely don't want someone bolting in ballast in a pit stop or me dropping some into a container or something, because at 50G, most of the shit inside that car comes out of where it should be. So it's just a variable that's not safe. So I think this is probably the best thing you could do. But a lot of the stuff I'd read was talking about the impact it had on co-drivers. I actually think it's going to expose some main guys. Even Randall and Everingham last year, this would put Randall at a 10 kilo disadvantage.
And Jack's quite a big boy too. Like, he's tall, Jack LeBrock. So, most Coeys are shorter than him, so they're going to be lighter than him.
One Coey that it has affected, I think, is Timmy Slade, who his driver weight was only 72 kilo, and the challenge he faces is he's lighter than the main, which means, because it's based off of, like, the lighter driver would end up actually disadvantaging the heavier driver.
Who's he with this year? Is he with Percat?
I'm not sure.
Percat's pretty light too. They might, I don't know.
Yeah, I can find Percat on this list. So Percat was 78. So, yeah, I mean, it's still
4 or 5 kilos.
Still, say, a 5 kilo disadvantage for Percat when he's in the car. So, I mean, and that's the challenge for Slady, because he is a weapon. He's so fit, but to put size on is going to be a challenge. But it limits who you can be paired with, because most of the drivers on the list are kind of around the 80 to 90 kilo.
Just water weight before you do the scales, man. Just drink 5 litres of water and just hold it in there.
I did do that at Adelaide one year at the 500, and I vomited for about 10 minutes after just water. I went and weighed in. I drank as much water as I could, and then I ended up spewing for a bit after the driver weigh-in, because they do check boots and helmets and everything for weight.
Do they check your bladders?
Bladders?
Yeah, do they make you whiz before you get on there?
Oh, no. That's the thing. I drank a lot of water, and to the point where, I was sick.
A couple of kilos there, mate. Just anyone listening?
It probably made no difference, but it's worth trying. But yeah, and to give perspective, last year I was a lot heavier than Will. So I ended up actually having to diet pretty hard, and we lost 7.5 kilos, which brought us closer. So I ended up, where are we last year? Because ideally it could be net, 0. So I was 81.5, 2 kilos heavier than Will. So we got pretty close in the end.
If you stay at that and Will stays the same, you guys will be pretty even Stevens.
Yeah, well, I actually think I'm probably a kilo or two lighter than Bathurst. But, I mean, once you're looking at those numbers, it doesn't make a difference. Like, even 5 kilos is probably bugger all, because mitigated by safety cars and things like that. But when you were talking numbers of like 26, 21, when there was no safety car last year, and I saw one comment that the weight doesn't make a difference. It's about who's fast and not. But it was 0.26 a lap. Is 2.5 tenths a lap is quite a big gap. But unfortunately for us, it didn't take anything away from last year, because Todd was quicker than that. So Todd was legitimately, like, he was 3 tenths a lap, I think, when I looked at driver database, quicker than I was. So
you've got some work to do, my friend.
Him and Brodie last year were fucking fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
As was Brock actually last year. Again, when I looked at the numbers, I was pretty impressed with how quick Brock was last year.
I don't think it would have changed the result from last year, but
I don't think it would have at all.
Anyway, they've, as I said, the best thing that they've done by doing it, and kudos to Supercars for doing, is it stops the chat like this happening.
Yeah, and they've done something. So, what can you do but try?
Yep. What about the full course yellow, mate? What have they done there?
Well, I've read a lot of times they've got rid of the full course yellow, which is not true.
Right.
They've got rid of the words full course yellow, because I believe there's like a bit of a stigma attached to it.
What do they call it now?
Well, I think they've just said they've eliminated full course yellow, which means but the rule is you've still got to, if they call safety car now, you've got 15 seconds to get below to get below 80 kilometres an hour.
Right.
Which is still the exact same. They're just not saying the words full course yellow.
And there's also just a safety car out on the field.
No. So it'll be safety car.
Yep.
Get to below 80 within 15 seconds. Then they'll release the safety car.
Yeah.
Once it's under control, they'll then say catch the safety car, so you can then speed back up. It's all the same procedure. The only difference is last year they might have called a full course yellow and not gone to safety car.
That's what I mean. So
which really didn't happen.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Now safety car will always come out.
A safety car will always come out.
And you'll be able to bunch up.
Exactly. But I did get some info that they might still call full course yellow if there's only a little bit of debris.
Bit of debris.
Exactly. So if there is a little bit, so the only thing I worry is I don't think we're being fully transparent with the punters. Like if they do the same thing and everyone goes, well, hang on, it's still full course yellow. You've just got rid of the name. We're not stupid. But what they have done is eliminated that 2-lap thing they had at Sandown.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Which is great. So getting rid of those 2 laps we had is gone. And yeah, the 80k an hour challenge, I know RD pretty much called me useless, but it is hard to, within 15 seconds, maximize how fast you go until you brake before the 80 to get down there without speeding. You know what I mean? Like RD said, amateurs can do it all around the world, but we saw drivers last year cop penalties left, right, centre.
People are driving up the back of each other at Sandown.
100%. So it is hard. So I think that's cool that we've kept it. But for those asking, because even tonight in Patreon, someone asked about full course yellow, could we explain that?
Right.
It hasn't really, there's no difference. They've just got rid of the words full course yellow. It'll go safety car, 15 seconds to get below 80.
Yeah.
Safety car will enter the track, and then once it's safe, they'll release us and say catch the safety car.
Cool.
But if there's debris,
so you can nose to tail again under safety car.
You could still fuck it up royally. Yep.
No, but I mean, you can bunch back up. You don't have to hold a gap or anything.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I think, you want that. You want to bring people back into the race.
Yeah, the only thing, like if there's full course yellow for a bit of debris, then I think that's a good thing. Like if they just say...
Something trivial that, like if you've done an amazing job and you've pulled 3 seconds on the guy behind and a fucking lug nut sitting on the road, you'd be felt hard done by if that is what caused you the game back up on you. But anyway, that's good, mate. Should we fire into memos?
We should. Is the cable still there, mate? I need the cable for the...
Yeah. That's this bad boy, I think, mate. Is that the one?
That'll be the one. Slide that over. So it's that time. We're going to rip into the fan memos. So we sent out on our socials. Keep an eye on them. If we do ask for a voice message...
A few questions, lads. Is the 12-hour dead? Not many cars this year, although similar to last year. Can Brodie make a big comeback at DJR? And, Jesus, when are we getting rid of Scaife?
Well, I think we went over the 12-hour, but what do you think about Brodie, mate? What's your predictions?
Yeah, no, we called it last year. I predict good things for him this year. Yeah, I think DJR have got a good group of, not that they didn't have good people, but I think they've got some fresh blood in there with that, whether it changes, but sometimes just that motivation changes, and that's all people need. I think Brodie will excel in a different environment, and my gut feel at the moment is that he can very much control that environment. He's got George, his engineer, there. We know that Tom Moore went over there too from Erebus as well. So I feel like he'll be able to mould that to what he wants.
Yeah.
So I've called round one. They'll have a, pole or win or something at round one. So, yeah, I don't think it'll take him too long to get up to speed. I think he'll have a great year and bounce back for sure. I saw him the other week up at QR and he looked really happy and healthy. And so, yeah, I think he's in for a good year is my personal feel.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's almost a shame for LeBrock and Cooper because they're going to a place now. It's obviously changed a lot. A lot of people have left. One of which I only heard yesterday actually was talking to someone that's left that place and said that they've pretty much done a sidestep to another team. It's not really like it's someone probably on the similar level, but they said it beats getting yelled at every day. So things obviously are still very similar. But for Brodie and those guys there, I'm excited to see what they can do. I caught up with Tom last week in Brisbane when I was up there, and it's just awesome to see the change in him and being surrounded by an environment like that. And I don't know, as a mate, seeing your mate that happy and motivated going into a year and seeing what's actually possible in a team like that as well. Like, I think it's kind of opened his mind. And I even said to him, like, you do 10 years in a place like that, you could go back to an Erebus and make it what it should be. Because like a team like, and you go back there as you know, a completely different role, not just a race engineer. I was saying as an example, it's like you see what's possible in the world when you go to other places. And that's why as well, it's probably good as an engineer like Tom to go and experience those things and see how other teams operate. And of course, George has loads of experience. So I don't know, between them, I think that they're going to give Brodie a pretty good package. And it sounds like, you know, even talking to Ryan when he was on our podcast, they're not shortchanging anything. They're giving it everything they absolutely can to make sure that both Will Davo and Brodie have a shot at turning things around there and getting back to where they should be.
Yeah, I was just going to say, not just Brody. I think Will's going to benefit from this greatly as well. So
Yeah, he hasn't been talked about a lot, which is crazy. I mean, of course, you got the champion going on your team and all the staff changes and things, but I think Davo is going to be one to watch this year. That's probably flown under the radar.
Yeah, exactly. And we also saw with Davo when the young charger Anton went there, he matched him.
Yeah.
So there's, I wouldn't be surprised if Brody and Will are matching each other. Is what I think. So
I think people underestimate how competitive Davo is and how much of a factor the car had as well on what Anton was able to achieve there. I don't think that even at the end of Scotty Mac's tenure there, it was really still on the same trajectory, or at least even maintaining where they were. They had started to taper. I'm not saying that they're as good as Scotty Mac. Obviously, what he did was pretty special, but I think people probably underestimate. Davo, I think we'll see match, or at least be very close to Brody, if not in front of him or behind him on his.
It's really weird with Davo. Like, a lot of people give him shit online. I don't get it. Like, I don't know. Everyone has people that just don't like him, right? But I just find, like, I always see who's the inbred suit? Like, he's always put on. People are always having to go. I just don't freaking get it. The guy's won heaps of right. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I think he'll do well. So I think.
I don't know.
I think the whole DJR will excel this year at some point.
A win at round one or not? I asked this to Tom and he was like, I can't. He's like,
I will happily. I mean, unfortunately for them, it means it may not happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably won't now.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think I said in one of our shows, I said I had him at pole.
I think you did.
And then,
I think a pole at round one.
You had round three. You had Grand Prix, I think.
Grand Prix is a win.
Yeah.
Next one.
Hello, team. Brendan from Queensland here. This is a question maybe for 19 Media, and I already know the answer. It's all to do with cost, but why can't we do something summer series? Why can't we set up a very short series out of Sydney Motorsport Park and Queensland Raceway as an example, maybe get a more fun and young sponsor in to fund it, somehow come up with something creative where we can get to know even some lesser known, lower tier race drivers and make some personalities grow. Give us something to watch. Man, this lack of motorsport over the gap from basically October, November, when IndyCar, Supercars, et cetera, shut down, to now when we're just starting to get some endurances. It's been a killer for somebody who doesn't like cricket. Cheers, boys. Love your work. Chat it out.
I can agree, because everything I see is cricket and I'm not a cricket fan at all.
There's an easy answer for that, mate. Buy a sprint car.
Yeah, I mean, that is, one of the coolest forms of motorsport. And shout out James McFadden, just won the Warrnambool Sprint Classic on the weekend.
Cam did well too. He was, 11th in the A main, but they had a pretty good weekend.
Yeah.
Good 3 days.
Yeah, unbelievable. And if you haven't seen it, go watch James McFadden's celebration where he slid down. I swear it looked like he'd had 10 sound checks before he did his celebration, because he tripped and slid and fell off the wing and landed on the front of the car.
I was like, mate, I thought he would have broken a rib.
I know. He's probably got some bruises. Someone, HXRZ3, has actually said maybe they could do a summer series on iRacing over summer. It's actually not a bad shout. The popularity of the Fox when we did the E-Series was actually quite big. But one thing...
Hard to get the drivers, though. The drivers will just want to knock off after Adelaide.
Well, some will. I think that one thing you could do, though, which I actually thought of, is like almost like the Race of Champions thing, where maybe you could do something, whether it's like...
We do a shitbox rally.
Let's just do
an Apex Hunters shitbox. Yeah, a Trans-Tasman SADA chat. So we do one round in Australia, one round in New Zealand. Idea. And we just tear shit up and we just broadcast it on Fox, guys.
You actually could do maybe something across sports here in Australia. We have different motorsports, like you have Trans Am and things come in.
A Race of Champions style weekend where you've got different disciplines.
But I mean, in terms of summer series, you need a few weekends. I see what he's saying about doing like Sydney Motorsport Park, or you could do a couple tracks and try and make it somehow cheap, where someone just supplies the cars, or teams do, and you select the drivers from around Australia, whether it's even just 10 drivers, and they race sprint races. But I do agree, there needs to be something in the off-season.
Be like what the IROC series was in America. So they had all the IROC cars and all the stars from NASCAR, Earnhardt's, and that would go and race them. So hear me out. As an example, Chev and Ford have some production-based cars that they own that they run out like an IROC championship for 3-4 rounds over summer. And then the Supercar stars and Coeys and whoever they want to get in, whoever guest drivers they want to get in, can dive in. And like something like that, like an IROC series would be awesome.
Something built around the personalities.
Yeah, and then
I think that would be good. Like those IROC cars are actually pretty cool.
that's super cool.
And I mean, even the popularity of what we did with SADA, I know the race is a bit of a piss take, but it does show that like a different discipline like that is fun to watch, even if it's just the onboard videos and things you get to watch. But seeing the personalities across the summer break, I think is a good thing. But one thing I would say is the Toyota Racing Series, give those guys a call out, is actually a really good summer series for a lot of drivers that are potentially going to end up in Formula One. I did it, and when I did it, I raced against like Danny Kvyat, Mitch Evans, who's now in a Jaguar Formula E driver, Cassidy, also Jaguar Formula E. Will Stevens just raced at Daytona on the weekend, 24. So there's a lot of guys, at least a lot of drivers that are a lot older now, but there's a lot of young guys coming through now as well. Like I think Arvid Lindblad was the young Red Bull driver who's over there at the moment racing against Will Brown, but he's a Formula One prospect. So there is a series as a motorsport fan. If you're looking for entertainment, go watch Toyota Racing Series in the off season because a lot of Euros come out to New Zealand and they watch that series. They race in that series to stay sharp over the summer.
Maybe now Toyota's coming into Supercars, they can give us a heap of Supras and we can do an IROC thing with Supras.
Just a banger race in Supras. Unreal.
Awesome.
Yes. All right. Next.
Hey, lads, love the podcast.
Thanks, mate.
More things about commentary. I'd love if Supercars just gave a bag of money to Matt Hill and got him across to just do play-by-play.
Horse racing.
Keep the former supercar drivers as special comments when needed and just have someone calling it, just calling the race as it is. Cheers.
Yeah, that would make it exciting. It would also open it up to being able to listen to it because it is on radio, but it's not as engaging.
Oh, you'd have no hope of listening to us while on radio.
It's not about shout. I mean, NASCAR do that. They've got the analysts, which are the ex-drivers or drivers, and then they've got the hosts.
Yeah, I think a broadcaster, like I still think that ours should go out to like auditions almost. Like it should be, you have to audition to be the anchor for the supercar coverage because you nearly want someone talking about it. They commentate on what's in front of them. They don't have to be an expert because the expert's sitting beside them that adds the little bit that the fan needs to know. And you've got Larko in the lane. You've got all this technical knowledge in the lane that is amazing to watch and listen to. And they break it down to a point where like even I can understand as a driver, my mechanical knowledge is shit house. So I watch Larko when I want to understand something. But yeah, we need a broadcaster. And I think that it can be someone from outside the sport that just commentates on the sport they're looking at in front of them, the exciting bits, you know. And that way, if you are driving somewhere, you can listen. At the moment, you have no idea what's going on because for 4 laps in a 1-lap shootout, they're still talking about front lock and how that works, how you get front lock. So, yeah, and someone did say about Scafie before, I still think the team we've got add a lot of value. In the last memo, I said one of his jokes at the end, obviously getting rid of Scafie, but I still think Scafie adds a lot of value to the coverage, as does Crompo and Tander, because their knowledge you can't really replace. But I don't think they should be the anchors of the whole broadcast. I think that they're drivers. They're some of the best drivers, particularly Scafie's probably the best we've ever had.
Yep.
But that's not a prerequisite for being the best commentator of all time.
No.
It shouldn't be anyway. There's a bit of a stranglehold though on broadcast. I don't think anyone's changing that.
G'day, Hunters. Simo from Sydney here. Disappointed that Supercars have decided to force main game drivers to start the Enduros again. I do have an idea, though, to make the racing interesting throughout the entire day, and that is to make teams change drivers at every pit stop, with the exception that each car gets one stop during the race where they don't have to swap drivers. This would bring in a whole new aspect of strategy for the teams, depending on yellows, how the drivers are going, weather, what other teams are doing. Using your stop where you don't have to change drivers could be one of the biggest decisions a team would make all day. Also, imagine the fairy tale finish if a car had a Coey stuck in it at the end of the race and they pulled off an epic win against a main game driver. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts. Up the Ferraris for the 12-hour. Good luck, boys.
Simo, he's back.
I don't think you can't. If you did if they had to change every time, you would always end up with, because
double stint at the end.
Yeah, but you'd always end up with the same drivers in the car. Like you'd always end up with Coes versus Main, like Coes and then Mains, especially with Mains starting the race.
Yeah, but you would also, if you would assume that the Mains would stay for a double at the end.
Yeah, but I also think like he's not wrong in that what you could do though, instead of doing everyone, you should have a minimum driver change
Yeah, it should be ramped up. I totally
It's
agree.
like instead
you
of
should
just
have to get
doing
in and out, as an example,
3
4 times.
Yeah, instead of doing 3 or something, you got to do 4 or 5 driver changes because there's 7 stops.
No, yeah, I agree with you there.
So
Simo.
yeah, instead of doing, what did we do last time? I got in
Yeah, what did you do? You should know. Wasn't that long ago?
1, 2. Oh, well, if you got to count, sorry, not the in and out for me. It's only like I got in twice.
Yeah. So yeah, if they up that
So
to 3 or 4,
if they up that to 3 or 4, then it starts to be more in line with the a 7-stop race. Not every stop, but 3 or 4 starts to make. If there's a 4-stop minimum for driver change, 4 times you got to be in the car. It changes a lot.
It's a bit like playing. This could be a terrible analogy, but it's a bit like playing Ambrose golf. Where you pick when you've got to use so many drives off the not so good golfer as an example.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, let's take one now.
Careful what you say here, Bubs. I'm still that not so good golfer in the car.
That's not what I'm saying, but it's like that. And
It is definitely.
Teams would be like, you know what? We're going to pop them in now.
Yeah.
Because we think this is going to happen or vice versa. So I think that's a good shout. So, mate, we'll tweak it a little bit there, mate, but I like it.
All right, next memo.
Bathurst 12 hour this weekend. Can't wait to sit on my ass, sink mounds of piss, and watch great racing all day Sunday. Rule changes. What the fuck?
That's what you really think.
I just don't get it. Supercars bipolar or something. They want a full course yellow system and then they get rid of it. They don't even give it a chance, to sort of improve. Mains starting at the Enduros. I don't understand that one either. It takes away the opportunity for teams who are less fortunate in qualifying. I won't say shit because I'm nice. It gives those teams, or doesn't give those teams, the opportunity to throw a main driver in while majority of the other cars on the grid have a co-driver in, and that main can, carve through those coes and, make up some ground. Thanks, lads.
You can answer your bit. I'm going to run and get another beer.
Go for it, mate. In terms of all the rule changes, I agree. One thing I'd say is, fans, we love how we're all passionate, and I'm sure Supercars love how passionate we are. But you're never, ever going to allow the fans to completely steer the narrative. But at some point, you've got to listen to the fans and you've got to read the comments section. Even planning for this podcast tonight, I spent a good hour just going through forums and reading what you guys and everyone online was saying about some of the rule changes to see what the general consensus is. And the sad part is, even when we put online to ask people to send in questions, a lot of it, they weren't questions. They were kind of just statements, how disappointed they were that after everything everyone had said, they weren't heard. And I was just, I think that it's important to understand we're not going to ever steer completely the direction of the sport. And you should never, we got to back Supercars to make the right decisions without having to go on the masses with asking them what they want. But you got to read the room at some point. It's like at some point you got to acknowledge that maybe there's a few things you could do that might appease the people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, mate. We're not going to change, but look, I genuinely think they're listening more, and whether it's just timing, but I think, not saying we're making a difference, but I think since we've sort of started the show and we give the fans a voice, I guess, things are changing. Look, and they're trying to make it better. They're never going to do everything that everyone wants. Everyone's got different opinions on what works and what doesn't and why. I mean, there'll be other aspects that we don't know about that forces certain things to happen, I'm sure. But I think they're actually trying. That's what it feels like anyway, and we'll find out throughout the year.
Yeah. There's a few things coming up in the pre-brief pod that I want to talk about that I do think they're getting wrong. But right now, I think the coolest thing they've done is they've introduced the finals series, which I think we should focus on that. Parity is gone. I think that we've got an amazing championship. I think that, there's of course things we can keep working on with the cars to make them better, but the Ford versus Chev debate, I think, is dead and gone. I think that, commentary, even watching that, they are mixing it up a little bit. They are trying to, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but listeners, take note, you never see Crompton and Scaife on TV together. They're always split because they're trying to move them around the lane. They're trying to put them in different places, and they are trying to diversify the coverage a little bit more. It was funny when I've, mentioned or complained. So we know they're listening because I had a specific whinge about not getting enough coverage. I would like more TV time, please, sir. I got ample amount. Unfortunately, I shunted, so I was wishing that I had kept my mouth shut. But they do listen and they are trying. But there's a few obvious ones like the co-driver one starting that I think, maybe. I bet that rule changes. That will not be something.
I was going to say, like, it's at least, I mean, September's the band, October's Bathurst. I would not be surprised if before then that gets tweaked. I think
even if it's just next year, though, they might. I just don't see it being a long term.
Even this year, I honestly, I feel like there's plenty of room to change the regs up until leading up to the event.
Yep.
And I think if fans voice their opinions enough and teams and voice their, because obviously teams will have a big impact on this too. If the teams went to Supercar and said, hey guys, we want to control our own destiny on the biggest race of the year, let us do that, surely they would listen. Sound check.
Lovely. Kate Cooper, what do we got? Lots of talk about how Brodie is going to go in his new environment, but what are your thoughts specifically on the differences of the new team environment for Anton and Richie?
That's a good point.
Great one. If you're wondering where the question came from, that was from Patreon, our members platform. Thanks, Kate. Everyone else is here watching as well.
I mean, you know both Anton and Richie better than I do, mate. Have you spoken to them at all? Are you any goss?
I spoke to Anton last year. I think the change for him is going to be good. I think that unfortunately, you know, when your time's done somewhere or you're not feeling like it's the right place for you anymore, for whatever reason, both sides have their opinions, then I think it's the right time to move on and go find something different. Unfortunately for Anton, I don't see the building phase has got to stop at some point at Team 18 and they've got to go get results. Like there's never been...
Do you reckon there's still a chance of being a Toyota team? Because that was sort of the rumor.
Oh, maybe, but I mean, what difference is it going to make?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm throwing to you.
You've got a Chev now, and a Chev just won the team's championship, so it's like, what difference is that going to make? I mean, not being a dick, but I'm like...
Well, you are.
It's just like the brutal answer is like...
No, but I'm wondering if that was sort of part of the reason why he went down that road or not.
Maybe. I don't see it making a difference to the outcome, though. I just don't see them... And it starts at the top. I think the leadership is so important in these places. And I've now seen the contrast of leadership in different teams. And it's, unfortunately for Anton and Dave there, I mean, even the likelihood of leaving that place as a main guy and getting a drive anywhere else after that is almost zero. Like, I don't think there's been a full-time driver leave Team 18 and continue.
That sounds so...
Mate, it's fucking brutal.
No, but it just sounds... So, I know it just sounds real fucking hard.
Mate, I'm like... I think back to some of the times there and I'm like, I remember being in debriefs being like, this, guys, is like, we need to stop laughing. Like, there was times where things are being laughed about and it's like, fuck me, this is ruining everyone's career in this room. And it's like, unless that changes, it's going to continue. And, I mean, you've had Frosty leave there now and obviously his career is now he's a co-driver, myself, Lee Holdsworth. There's been a number of guys that have been through there, co-drivers too, that have struggled to get drives after that. And I think that at some point you got to look at like what the team's given the drivers because they've got, okay, you've made another driver change, but you've got Anton now and Dave, both fast guys, both have won races. It's not going to be them.
No.
At worst, they're going to be fifth or sixth in a good car. So
yeah, and as you say, they've also got really good stuff. So, fuck, you know, how do they do it?
Yeah, I don't understand.
What about Richie?
I mean, we keep talking about Richie's potential and everything there. I think Richie's a great driver, but at some point as well, I guess the buck stops with him and, you know, you got to deliver on some of that potential, but...
Are they consistent enough, though?
Yeah, it still can't be underestimated how important the car is. So, I don't know. I think Premier at some point as well got to decide where they're at. You know, they got Ludo there who hasn't really transformed that place. I don't think, you know...
See Simon Hodges gone there to engineer Golding this year.
Yeah, but I really think that, you know, the Penske hype around Ludo, maybe, like, was it more about all the other things they had in place and Scotty Mac's ability as well? Was that, you know, has that... Because really nothing's...
And it could have also been head games too.
Possibly, yeah.
They could have gone, fuck, we're going to take this guy out of Triple Eight just to try and rattle him a bit. Whether they thought that was going to make a difference. I mean, this is just all speculation.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think if Premier can deliver a package that's more consistent, I think that him and Richie and Jimmy Golding can both do a great job. So I don't see any reason why Richie can't get performance, and I think he'll be happy in that environment. I think like Golding looks really good there. Yeah, and I remember I've had one chat with which really stands out to me, talking to a team owner, and that was with Premier owner,
Pete Ziberis.
And we were chatting, and he just said, you know, I really can't hold anything against the guys. I haven't given them a car that's fast enough to show what they're capable of. And to hear a team owner say that is actually
Bloody
quite
refreshing.
rare. So I really thought, fuck, that was quite good to hear. So I think if they take that mentality into this year and really focus internally, I reckon they'll do well because they've both got good drivers.
Look, and to be honest, mate, I don't think there's anyone on that grid that couldn't win a race if they had the right gear.
Yeah.
They're all amazing drivers. So, yeah, it all comes down to the team that does the best job as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. Last question for the night. I reckon we'll wrap this one up. But Lynn Crosby, also on Patreon tonight. A bit off topic, but what are your thoughts on Red Bull sponsoring SVG NASCAR?
Scotty?
Well, I was actually with CEO for Red Bull Australasia and managing director and for Australia and at Red Bull, and they were both pumped. I mean,
Where were you? At the tennis.
We're at the tennis, actually, of all places. I love the tennis. I go each year, and we didn't get a ground pass this year, which was a bit of a shame. And then I snuck into the final for the women's, and went with Red Bull, and it was really cool. I actually brought it up because I said it was awesome to see Red Bull back in NASCAR, and I hope that they have a good year because I had heard. I don't know what happened in the past, but I don't think it was a good experience. I think they were with Toyota at one point, but I don't think NASCAR was great for Red Bull in the past. So I hope that it goes well. I reckon that Connor Zilic is a gun as well. Of course, we know Shane's a good driver. Yeah. Goes right. But yeah, I reckon it's a good program and cool to see Red Bull in a proper way back in NASCAR.
Yeah, and it's nice when you see sponsors link up again or brands link up with drivers that they've previously.
Yeah.
Obviously, Shane was heavily embedded in the Red Bull Australia camp for so long. It's nice that then Red Bull USA have backed him in his NASCAR journey. And I think this year is exciting for SVG fans. I think first Cup Series, doing heaps of racing, good team, car looks awesome. I think they're on the car for 5 rounds, I think, off the top of my head. I think I read.
Yep.
I think it's cool. Car looks awesome. He sent us a picture and we're like, that's cool. And they Trackhouse are so good at their media and their video stuff. Did you see the video of the guys jumping out of the plane with the wheels?
Yeah.
Like they do it well. So I think Red Bull will get a lot out of that partnership with Trackhouse and with Shane and Connor as their ambassadors and drivers. So I think it's shit hot.
Very cool. Well, that is tonight's podcast. We've got 3 big guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I can actually announce them.
Can you?
Very excited to announce these ones. Yeah, we haven't put this on socials or anything. We've done nothing about this yet. We've just been getting them all locked away. But
are they locked in?
They're locked in until they pull the pin on me or something. But I'm very excited. We've got Daniel Sanders, a Chucky, who's just won Dakar. He also won champion. Morocco as well, Red Bull KTM rider in the desert racing. So
for our 2-wheel fans.
Yeah, we talked about we want to do different things this year, and I think that I met Chucky. I've known of him forever. I mean, he's a gun, and obviously this year big shoes to fill with Toby, and we all know what Toby Price did at that team, and so he's kind of similar to Will Brown. I sort of was keeping an eye on him because I thought, he's filled the shoes of the guy previously who did a very good job. And, he's actually delivered, gone out and won Dakar. And so he's going to come on the pod, have a beer with us. He's very keen to have a drink and chat at the bar. And I'm interested just to hear as well a bit of insight around the differences between going from a satellite team to then the full factory outfit and how that team operates and what it's like to do Dakar. Following it this year, it's doing...
Brutal.
Fuck, I texted him yesterday and said, I kind of feel like watching Dakar is like watching someone do the Bathurst 1000 on their own for 12 days straight while being stabbed with thorns. So, wild. So hopefully the fans enjoy that one. It's a little bit different.
What else we got?
2 wheels and 4. Then we got James Hinchcliffe.
IndyCar legend.
Yes. So I think, very excited to have Hinch on. Hinch he's done a lot of commentary in Formula 1 as well. And he's a renowned race car driver. And he came out here and raced for Walk and Chandretta United back in the day with Alexander Rossi at Bathurst in the wildcard.
Did too. He did Daytona on the weekend as well.
Yep. So absolute gun. So he, very excited. And then Will Power.
Oh, how good.
As well. So I'm very pumped to have Will Power on. He's obviously an absolute legend. I think entering 21st season in IndyCar. So.
Wow. So Chucky will be in the studio, mate, at the bar, and then obviously James and Will will be dial-ins.
Yep. Dial-ins. So, very excited to have those 3 guests. If there are, pop in the question in the comment section below. If there's questions you want to ask those guys, we'll start to shoot it out on socials as well once we line up the exact dates and times. Next week's a big week recording those, and then we've got the Sydney Motorsport Park preview for round 1 of the Supercars.
Yep. So we're working towards that 100, guys. 100 Fs.
I have my ass hanging out of me. But, thanks for listening tonight. If you can, subscribe, all that jazz. Support our partners as well that support us, keep us alive. And, if you want to watch the podcast live next time, jump on Patreon. Yep. If you don't, that's okay as well. And we'll get this up on YouTube for everyone to enjoy. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.